Welcome back to the Radio Horror YouTube channel, and tonight we are going to discuss the far reaches of the cosmos, taking a trip all the way to Rhode Island, where H.P. Lovecraft wrote Color Out of Space, which is a new movie directed by Richard Stanley. If that same name sounds familiar, we'll get into a little bit about his history, but this sci-fi horror fantasy film stars Nicolas Cage, and to join us to talk about Color Out of Space is the blonde in front of here, Katie.
Hello, fiends and freaks, or freens and feeks. Yes, this is Katie, the blonde in front of fear, talk to you about Color Out of Space, directed by Richard Stanley, and starring Nicolas Cage, Jolie Richardson, and Chami Chung. Now, this is a film about a sweet little family five living on a farm. The dad, played by Nicolas Cage, it's his father's family farm. All of a sudden, a sort of a meteor hits, which is very much similar to the third story in Creepshow with Stephen King. Kind of remind me of that. And then some crazy things start to happen. It has a little bit. What did I say? It has a little bit of Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Little bit of cabin fever, not too much, and then it goes into just a full-blown body horror orgy of some of your favorite body horror films, The Thing, In the Mouth of Madness, and Society. Now, Richard Stanley has a way of saturating his films in color, as he did with the color red and orange in Hardware. He does the same thing here with pink. And, kudos to Stanley to make that beautiful color pink so frightening and menacing. I love the natural chemistry that this whole family has. I also love the fact that Nicolas Cage has a love interest his same age in Jolie Richardson, and their chemistry is fantastic. It's nice to have Tommy Chong as a little bit of a comic relief in this. There is a thing that I did not like, though. Is this a film that has cage rage? Yeah. I mean, you got to have that. That's not the thing that I didn't like, because if it didn't have cage rage, then I would be mad. But the cage rage, how do I put this? For some reason, when Cage starts to rage in this film, he gets this voice that I feel like he's supposed to be channeling, or he's trying to channel Donald Trump. But what I actually get is more him doing an impersonation of Alec Baldwin, doing an impersonation of Donald Trump. And honestly, kids, that really threw me off. There is a whole situation with the body horror movies that I've talked about that is a very Mouth of Madness it's going to be a little unsettling, especially since it deals with two of the characters in the film. This is out there, though, because believe me, with this body horror orgy, H.P. Lovecraft is the safe word. I dug it. You can definitely see a Dario Argento influence in it. This is kind of like H.P. Lovecraft's Ordinary People sort of version. And yeah, I would say definitely give it a watch, because it's unlike it's not like it's unlike a lot of films. There's definitely some influence of some films and some basic, we're just going to copy this whole scene in a film, but it's one to watch. It's one to watch, and I would say see it.
Nicolas Cage has been on a high lately of just runaway really good independent films. What was the one he did? Mandy?
Yes.
And Mom and Dad?
Yeah.
And Richard Stanley, we haven't seen him in a good number of years, unless you watched any short film or documentary he worked on. He's been a writer of several things, but he kind of got out of director's jail from the disaster that was the Island of Dr. Moreau many years ago.
Yeah, he did. But, Hardware is definitely going to stand the test of time. In fact, they played it at Panic Fest. It went great. Joe Lynch actually talked about it with the guys from Nightmare Junkhead, which was amazing. And yeah, that's a film that I think it ages well. I could see this probably aging well too. We'll see, because you never know.
Had you ever seen the movie Die Monster Die, starring Boris Karloff?
I did not.
This was also based on the same story. by H.P. Lovecraft, and I really enjoyed the movie. It has a spooky atmosphere to it. It's about a young man visiting his fiance's estate to discover his wheelchair-bound scientist father-in-law has discovered a meteorite that emits mutation rays and has turned the plants into carnivorous creatures.
Sounds good. Sounds a little bit like Little Shop of Horrors with but more of the horror in it. But yeah, that's very interesting.
They played it recently at the Boston Science Fiction Film Festival, probably in anticipation of this movie coming out on video on demand or DVD, Blu-ray, digital, and so on and so forth.
Very cool. I should check that out.
Definitely. It's a classic movie from 1965. Definitely worth checking out. Check out some of the other great films that are based on H.P. Lovecraft stories. We're supposed to be getting more Lovecraft stories coming up very soon, as there's a Lovecraft television series. And there's also been great Lovecraft stories told back in the 80s and 90s on film. Most notably, of course, Reanimator, but also one of my favorites, Dagon. Check out the rest of the videos here on the Radio Horror YouTube channel, and check out Katie's reviews on The Blonde in Front on her Facebook page. Thank you, everybody.